Jaden Higgins is one of 3 rookie receivers that you need to target in every draft. We'll explain why next.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Here are your hosts, Marcus Mosher and Kate Madjuk.
Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. And we've got a special guest for you guys today. It is Shane P. Hallam. You can follow him on Twitter. What's your Twitter handle again? I lost it real quick. Where is it?
At Shane P. Hallam. So
nice and easy. So look at go check out his work over on Draft Sharks. Shane's been covering the NFL, playing fantasy for how many years now? 10, 15?
I started 2004, so it's
20 years now.
Yeah, 20 years. That makes me feel old, but that's why there's gray in the beard.
That's all right. All right, so on today's show, we're going to talk about 3 receivers that you need to target in every single rookie draft. And I asked you, Shane, to go a little bit deeper. So no Travis Hunter, no Matthew Golden, Ted McMillan. We're going to start with the most valuable of these 3 receivers, and that is Jaden Higgins from the Houston Texans. Right now, you can get him in the mid-second round of your rookie drafts. Why are you targeting him in every league?
I think the upside that Jaden Higgins brings to the table is just exceptional. You know, before the draft, my comp for him as a prospect was Nico Collins. Going in on the Draft Sharks podcast, I dropped that in, and then boom, he goes to the Texans. You know, with their first pick in the draft. I think when you see that 6'4", 214 frame with the big time athleticism, there's a lot to like there in terms of a Nico Collins-esque. He's got the size, but enough kind of wiggle and route running and footwork that it's really hard to just cover him one-on-one. You expect these bigger receivers to be these kind of stiffer and okay, if I'm smaller but I'm more athletic, I can kind of match with him. Jaden Higgins doesn't have that. And I mean, he had the production. He actually had the highest PFF receiving grade in 2024 of any wide receiver that went to the combine. So the film is exceptional on Higgins. You see him down the field, and the Texans also drafted his teammate Jalen Noel, who will be in the slot, likely behind Christian Kirk for them. I like Noel too, but Higgins. He could play flanker. He could play that X receiver role. He played some big slot for Iowa State, where I thought he was really effective. And so you have Nico Collins on one side, you have Higgins on the other. I think it's going to be really difficult to decide what do we do with that safety, right? You kind of have to bracket Nico Collins, and if Higgins is the guy going deep one-on-one, I think he's going to get looks. I mean, I love him within this system. They're bringing in that Sean McVay system where they do move these chess pieces around, so the defense is always kind of off balance and off their feet. And I think a guy like Higgins can excel if he gets the right matchup. I mean, that's going to be a CJ Stroud first type of read. So I think the upside is there, even with Collins on the team. I mean, I think this Texans team can get back to what we saw 2 years ago as a pass first, CJ Stroud drop back, quick release, and let the receivers do the work.
So right now over on Dynasty League Football, the ADP for Jaden Higgins, 17.5, 16 overall. So middle of the second round is kind of where he's been going. Shane, I struggle with Jaden Higgins. I struggled with him pre-draft because I thought he's somebody that needed to be like a big slot in the NFL. I actually liked his teammate better, Jalen Noel. I just thought he was a better prospect. They go around difference, right? Noel goes a little bit later. I almost wonder if this is a bad spot for Higgins now because Noel's going to play in the slot and Higgins is probably going to have to be the Z receiver. I just don't know what to do. I could see this working out in a lot of different ways. My comp for him coming out, again, this is such a lazy comp, but that's how I felt about him. My comp for him was like Allen Lazard, like the good version of Allen Lazard that we've seen with the Packers, where he's 6'4", he can play in a slot, big body, but just doesn't create a lot of separation. How does this work out from a dynasty fantasy? Like, what does he need to do to become somebody that we put into our lineups every single week?
I think it's the big playability is what Higgins needs to do. I mean, I don't think the Lazard comp is poor. I do think I do think Higgins has a little more of that agility, that kind of short area
I would agree.
quickness. Now,
He's better after the catch.
right, better after the catch, and it's going to give you. I think if they can scheme up some different ways to get him the ball, then I think the after the catch ability is what's going to bring him into fantasy relevance, right? I don't think Higgins is going to be this PPR monster that's catching 10 passes a game, right? Like, that's not who I'm expecting when I take a receiver in the second round of my rookie draft. But you have a player that can run the 9, maybe get a deep touchdown a couple weeks in the season. And then I think Higgins has the after the catch ability to, okay, can he catch 2 or 3 more passes and turn, a 5-yard pass into 12? If he can do that a couple times, then you're looking at, 6 catches and he can get 80 yards and a touchdown. I mean that's a weekly starter, right? Sure. I think that's what we're looking for. And the Texans are going to have to pass more than they passed last year. And I think that's obvious with drafting these 2 wide receivers that's what they want to do, and that's going to be the focus.
I will say, of that group of receivers, that tier where it's Jaden Higgins, Trey Harris, Jack Bash, kind of all these guys that I project to be like slot receivers, Z receivers, I do like Higgins the best. I just think he's the most natural of the 3 receivers. I think he's got the best athleticism of those 3 guys. So I can see it. On top of that, he is playing with CJ Stroud, who I think it's so frustrating that Stephon Diggs got hurt early in the year, because I do think we were on our way to seeing this passing offense support 3 receivers, because CJ Stroud is that type of quarterback. I do think it's not a terrible situation for Higgins. I just want to see how it plays out. I guess I'm a little bit more pessimistic than you are.
Yeah, and I'll also put in that he's a young 22. A lot of these other receivers, I mean, Jack Bash is the same age, but a lot of these other receivers in that group are pushing 23 by the start of the season, maybe even 24 by the start of the season. So I think there's still some room to grow for Higgins.
And like, Bash is just not the same caliber of athlete. Like, I like Jack Bash, and I think he can be a decent receiver for the Raiders, but I mean, there is a pretty massive difference when we're talking about athleticism here.
I think in fantasy, sometimes we underrate big playability. Mm-hmm. Like we think, I'm playing in a PPR league, I'm getting points for catches, and it looks good when the guy gets 10 catches. But if I have a player that can have a 60-yard touchdown, I mean, and that's a good fantasy game. 1 catch for 60 yards and touchdown. So like Higgins can do that.
Points. Yeah.
Higgins can do that. And to me, I think that's worth that mid-second round pick, like you said, over the other players that are in that range.
All right, let's dive a little bit deeper, Shane. Let's talk about Pat Bryant, maybe one of the most surprising top 100 picks from this year's draft. We will get to him next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's so many awesome ways to bet on FanDuel, and you can make sure that you are always getting in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. I can't wait for the conference finals to start tonight. I'm taking the Thunder to win the NBA championship, but go check out all of the series lines, the futures lines, who's going to be the finals MVP. You can go bet on that as well. And if you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head over to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. And if it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. And make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We are discussing 3 receivers that you need to grab in every single rookie draft. And Shane, let's talk about this one, because I'm excited to talk about Pat Bryant, the wide receiver for the Denver Broncos. He was an early 3rd round pick. I don't think anybody anticipated him going that high, but why are you in on him in your dynasty drafts?
I think we all just kind of missed the boat on Pat Bryant. We're like, here's this 4'6", 40-time wide receiver from Illinois that didn't produce a ton just because Illinois was not a high-powered offense. But this past season, having almost 1,000 yards, having the double-digit touchdowns on an offense that was pretty weak in the Big Ten, I think was overlooked. And I mean, Pat Bryant is explosive, and his route running to me is among the best in the class. In the Draft Sharks rookie guide, but before the draft, we had him, not, I wouldn't say high, but higher than anyone else had him. And I was like, this might back. He might not even get drafted. Like, this might backfire. And then he goes in the third round. Sean Payton makes that comparison to Michael Thomas, which is
perfect.
Yeah. Which is lofty, but like, that's a kind of player that Denver does not have right now that we saw Sean Payton really need to unlock the full potential of the New Orleans Saints offense back when he coached them. I mean, Marvin Mims isn't running that slant route. Troy Franklin's not running that slant route. Cortland Sutton's doing his thing as the X. So I think Pat Bryant's such a great fit. I think with Bo Nix, who we know is so accurate in those short to mid-range throws in the middle of the field, that's where Pat Bryant did a lot of his damage at Illinois. I mean, he was top 5 in dominator rating, ahead of guys like Trey Harris and Jaden Higgins in 2024. I think just going back and watching the film on Pat Bryant, I'm like, man, if this guy had gone to a bigger school, I think the buzz would have been a lot higher. And because the buzz was not a lot higher, I mean, he's coming at such a value in rookie drafts. I'm seeing him go, late third round, early fourth round sometimes.
I've got it right here. Wide receiver 13 in our latest batch of ADP on Dynasty League Football. ADP of 40, which means that you can get him in the fourth round of your draft pretty consistently.
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, it should be a draft every time. I know this running back class is good, and sometimes I get tempted by those running backs, but Pat Bryant is going to an offense that needs this type of route runner, hands catcher, reliable player, especially on those third downs. And I think we could see him get slots from the snap, get slots, get snaps outside as well. Even as a rookie, wouldn't surprise me if we see him have some immediate playing time. And I think by year 2 is really when we'll see Pat Bryant come to fruition.
Well, you mentioned year 2. Look at this wide receiver depth chart right now, Shane, and how much it could change over the next year. Because it sure doesn't seem like the Broncos love Cortland Sutton, but they kind of understand that he's their best receiver. They kind of have to live with it. Sean Payton clearly has a love-hate relationship with Marvin Mims, where anytime he's on the field, he gets the ball, but he's hardly ever on the field, which is kind of crazy to watch considering the big plays he creates. There's just not a lot here. And I think the fact that Sean Payton grabbed this guy in the early part of the third round, they ignored receiver in the first 2 rounds, and he's coming out and saying, hey, this guy reminds me of Michael Thomas. He's not quite as big as Michael Thomas, but I think their games are very similar. Like, he's just a very good route runner who doesn't drop the ball. Yes, he doesn't have elite top-end speed, but he's actually pretty decent after the catch. It makes sense. And I think if you're looking at it from a fantasy perspective, I won't be surprised to see this be like a high-volume receiver where Bo Nix is just peppering him with targets, maybe not as a rookie, but by year 2. And if your dynasty leagues, if you can get somebody who's going to average 6, 7, 8 targets per game at a Sean Payton offense, sign me up.
Yeah, I'm in too. I think I'll trust Sean Payton. Yeah, I wasn't even a big like RJ Harvey guy. And Sean Payton takes him like, all right, I'm in. Let's go. Let's trust Payton in this offense. And I think when you have a player like Pat Bryant who has a lot of those advanced metrics that are pretty good. I mean, top 10 in the class in market share and receiving yards, top 5 in receiving touchdowns. Like he was dominant this year at Illinois, and it's just he was at Illinois. I think that's the one thing holding him back. So 4th round, I mean, baby, I'm in all day. Give me Pat Bryant every draft.
I want to cross compare him to some of these other receivers that are going in that same range, because I'm actually in a rookie draft right now. We're at the top of the 4th round, and all of these guys are available. Pat Bryant, who went at 310, Savon Williams to the Packers, the second receiver they drafted, 323, and then Isaac Tesla, right? I believe is how you say his last name, who the Lions traded 2 third-round picks for. I didn't see that type of talent when I was watching his film, but clearly somebody in that organization loves him.
I can't do it. I just had an article come out last week of 5 players NFL scouts are wrong about, and Tesla led the article. I mean, I know he's looked good in rookie camp, and like if Tesla hits with that athleticism, he's really gonna hit. But like I think it's kind of a trap to just say, oh, here's this big athlete that caught 28 passes this year. I mean, I don't think the Arkansas offense was worse than Illinois, and Pat Bryant was producing, and Tesla was not. So I think it's worth taking that production. I would much rather have Pat Bryant over either of those receivers.
Yeah, Tesla did 6'3.5", 214 pounds, ran a 4.43 at the NFL Combine. But you're right, the production just wasn't there. In 2 seasons at Arkansas, I had, I believe, 60 receptions for about 900 yards and 5 touchdowns. It's just not a profile that gets me all that fired up, especially on an offense. Now, this is a very good offense that clearly can support multiple receivers, but you already have Jahmyr Gibbs. You have Amon-Ra St. Brown. We'll see what happens with Jameson Williams. Like, I just feel like the upside's pretty capped. Where I think for Pat Bryant, like, Shane, would it shock you if we're going into the 2026 season talking about Pat Bryant being the number 1 passing option in Denver? I don't think it would.
No, I think it's very possible. I even say going into that season, we could see Pat Bryant as kind of a top 30-ish fantasy receiver if that comes true.
And there's just no way that Tesla has that kind of ceiling, right? Because he's blocked by so many other good guys. What about Savon Williams? Because that's the other one where dynasty drafters, the ADPs are almost identical. I don't quite understand the Savon Williams love, but what say you?
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, he was more of a weapon at TCU, with playing running back this year more than receiver. Matthew Golden obviously going in the first round to the Packers. It's like Savon Williams is maybe going to be the 4th or 5th best receiving option, like at best, for the Packers here in the next year or two. I just have trouble seeing him have fantasy relevance. I think Savon Williams could be a player that has NFL relevance. It's on the field and has a couple big plays here and there, but I think it's going to be very difficult to start in fantasy. I still see Savon Williams starting for the Packers, like being a top 3 receiver for them, more offensive weapon that they can trot out when they want to.
Of the 3 names we're going to discuss, Pat Bryant is my favorite. I think he's the best value. I think you can start considering it anytime in the mid-3rd round, Shane. I mean, yeah. Once you start getting to the Kyle Williams, A.O. Manor range, Jalen Royals, I'm kind of good with him being in that conversation.
No, I've definitely, I think I'm taking Royals over Bryant, but he's like right there. I've definitely had that consideration where I'm like, I'll kind of diversify a little bit between those. Okay.
What about Kyle Williams? You take Kyle Williams clearly over him?
Yeah, I'm not even a big Kyle Williams guy, but I think just the situation to become the number 1 in New England, with Drake May is a little bit more appealing to me, with the slightly higher draft capital. Similar draft
not
capital.
By a lot though, only 5 spots difference.
Yeah, it kind of just feels higher. I
felt the same way. I was shocked when I was looking at it this morning. It's like I thought Kyle Williams was very top of the 3rd round pick, and he was. Pat Bryant was also a top of the 3rd round pick as well. I lean with you. I think Kyle Williams is just a better player, but their situations aren't all that different.
Yeah, I think by year 2, year 3, their situations could look very similar if both hit. I feel like Pat Bryant's probably safer than Kyle Williams. I don't know if you'd agree with that, but I feel like he's probably safer. Yeah.
Well, I just trust Sean Payton more than I trust Josh McDaniels and Mike Vrabel to develop.
That's a good way to go. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about one receiver that isn't even getting drafted in some rookie drafts that Shane is telling you to go out and get right now. We'll get to our super sleeper next. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen every single day. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NFL Scouting Show. The NFL draft is over, but the roster moves and the news never stops. Host Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino will make you the most informed NFL fan this offseason. Find Locked On NFL Scouting on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. All right, Shane, let's talk about one more sleeper receiver. And before we get to your name, I just want to mention some of these other receivers that are actually being drafted ahead of Horton in some leagues, not all leagues. Isaiah Bond, who does not have an NFL team yet, who went undrafted. He's being drafted ahead of him. Xavier Restrepo, a 4-8 slot receiver who went undrafted, going ahead of your guy. And then my guy, Dante Thornton, a 4th-round pick by the Raiders, who, I mean, he's just a freak athlete. I kind of like him a lot. That's one of the guys I'm targeting in every draft. But tell us why Tory Horton is somebody that you are targeting in every draft.
Tory Horton going to the Seahawks, I think the situation and the profile to me are really good. And he's someone that had, day 2 buzz and then injured his knee at Colorado State, was super productive at Colorado State and was on track to do that again. Has a knee injury. It seems like the medical, some teams were fine with it, some weren't fine with it. And so he falls into that middle of the day 3 category. Those are the kind of players that I'll take a chance on there in the last round of my rookie draft over undrafted free agents, where Horton played as was number 1 receiver on a Gang of 5 school. He can run the routes as a 4.4 speed at his size. At I think he measured in 6'2.5" at the combine, 196 pounds. Runs a 4.4 and ran a pretty full route tree at Colorado State, which surprised me. Usually, a lot of these top small school guys we talk, Jalen Royals, did not run anything close to a full route tree. Horton was running a lot of different routes at Colorado State on the outside. And so, that athleticism combined with the production and the situation. I mean, Seattle, we have JSN in the slot. They brought in Cooper Kupp. They have Marcus Valdez-Scantling.
Corpse of Cooper Kupp, yeah.
Yeah, right. I mean, there's some wiggle room here. They also drafted Ricky White in round 7, but like that Jake Bobo, I don't know. Tory Horton can make this team. And if Cooper Kupp gets hurt again, like there's an opening for a guy, if he's healthy, to step in, produce, and I think he has the profile to be productive. If he had gone the end of round 2, I don't think people would have been shocked by that draft capital. And to me, that's the guy worth taking rather than an undrafted free agent.
You just look at the Seattle receiving core, and it's, easily the slowest in the NFL. Like, I am a huge JSN fan, but he's not fast. That's okay. Like, his game isn't based on speed. Neither was Cooper Kupp's, and he's gotten quite a bit slower over the last couple of years. Jake Bobo ran like a legit 4.99 at his pro day. Like, this is a very slow wide receiver room, and I think Tory Horton isn't like a burner or anything, but 4.41. My gosh, he's going to look like Usain Bolt in that offense compared to all the other receivers. So he's a fascinating player for me. The other thing is, Shane, Colorado State has a pretty decent track record of producing like NFL pass catchers. I know it's not Ohio State or LSU, but Trey McBride, Michael Gallup, Rashard Higgins, Ola Johnson. Like, it's not like this is a school that's never produced these guys. He's been incredibly productive. In 2022, he had 2022, he had 1,100 yards and 8 touchdowns. 2023, 1,100 yards and 8 touchdowns. The guy has been productive, like, for multiple years. It's hard not to get a little excited about him when you're talking about, you might not even have to use a pick on him. You can pick him up after your drafts are over.
And I'll say this, if people are like, oh, well, he went to Colorado State. He came out and said he had 6-figure offers to transfer, and he decided not to. He said, I made my commitment. I'm going to finish out here. And the offense was was good. It was going to be really good again this year. So I think he's someone that could have transferred to Georgia. And if you want to pretend that happened, you can. Like, I think it's still the same thing.
Yeah, I think there was a note from Dane Brugler that said that there was multiple SEC teams that wanted him when he's coming out of Nevada to go to their school. So you're right. Like, if he goes to Georgia and he puts up 700 yards, he's probably a top 100 pick, probably.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I think, Tory Horton's a great value late in your drafts. I'm going to pick your brain on Dante Thornton a little bit, because I don't understand why he's going this late in drafts. I know he's not a polished receiver, and I know this Raiders offense is still a work in progress, but you're talking about a 6'4", 205 pound receiver that ran a 4.31 at the NFL Combine, and he's going on to a team that has no outside receivers. Why is Thornton available this late?
I think the fear is just that that's all that he is. I mean, I think for Thornton's benefit, I mean, he led college football in yards per catch, right? I mean, he was the downfield threat. And every time he touched the ball, it was a big play. I think he was second in the class and third in the class in ADOT 16.5. So like, I think as that downfield threat, people are like, oh yeah. I think the fear is that's it. Like, that's my fear too. Like, I think Thornton is nine and go. And like, is that enough?
Has Pete Carroll had some recent success with a deep threat receiver from the SEC who only ran 9 routes and go routes and no stop routes? I'm asking.
That's fair. No, look, it's fair. I mean, if Thornton becomes DK Metcalf, Marcus, I think you'll have a lot to go off of. But
could he be a decent impression of that? I guess I've seen guys like Marquez Valdes-Scantling have a long career in the NFL. Not necessarily be fantasy producers, but just guys that have stuck around in the league because they're big and fast, and there's just not many guys like that in the league.
I think Thornton's going to stick around. Like, I'm with you. I think MVS is probably a good comp to how you want to utilize him, and I think that gives Thornton a long range value to the NFL, to the NFL team. I mean, he's on the field. You have to respect him. And that's good. I think it's one of those spots where fantasy and reality are just a little bit different. Where,
of course.
I don't know if it helps us too much.
For me, Shane, it's just like I would much rather gamble on Thornton's upside than taking Xavier Restrepo or Arian Smith or Ty Felton. You know what I mean? Like, if Thornton hits, it could hit in a big way, like a guy that you want on your team every single week. And I'd rather stash those guys at my bottom of my dynasty roster than someone like Xavier Restrepo, where he might be able to get you 7 or 8 points every single week, but that's just not that valuable. That's all.
No, I'm with you. I think when you're looking that late in the draft, those names you mentioned, I would take Dante Thornton in the draft capital over them. For sure. So
there you
I'm
go.
there.
That's my little Dante Thornton rant to end the show. That's anytime I can talk about him, I try to fit him into a conversation. That is it for today's show. We'd like to thank you for making Locked On Dynasty Football your first listen every single day. Go check out the channel on YouTube. Download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We are free and available on all platforms. Go follow Shane on Twitter at Shane P. Hallam. Go check out his work over on Draft Sharks. One of the best fantasy content producers out there. One of just the best NFL follows. Make sure you're following his account. You can follow me at Marcus_Mosher, and we will see you right back here tomorrow.